After 4 seasons of Terrified Nation, we are done. We have been naming America's fear and examining how provocateurs and conflict profiteers shape our fear into a time of chaos where we lose sight of our common desires. And we introduced builders who, despite the chaos, are sowing seeds of hope. We invited everyone to consider how our fear was being manipulated against our own interests. We asked a lot of reflective questions about what we want so we could avoid the trap of only seeing what we don't want. This episode is where Terrified Nation signs off with a steady hand and a clear handoff. We're going to recap what we learned, how we practiced it together, and where we go next. Because while this chapter of sharing is closing, another chapter is beginning. Stay tuned for the show.
If you've ever felt fear, doubt, or despair about the future of our country, you're not alone. Terrified Nation is a podcast for those ready to face hard truths with open hearts. Hosted by Debbie Lynn Molyneux, each episode explores how we can move beyond division and build a society rooted in care, courage, and connection. If this resonates with you, hit follow and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Now here's your host, Debbie Lynn Molyneux.
You know, when we started Terrified Nation, we were all feeling it, that deep, deep unease about where our country was headed. The shouting, the chaos, and the fear, it felt like the air itself was vibrating with tension. So we leaned into it and we named it. And we tried to understand it. And we asked, why are we so afraid? Well, over 2 years and 4 seasons, totaling 79 episodes, we have sat with the question of why are we so afraid? And we've talked to thinkers and builders and everyday people who are just trying to make sense of this moment. And together we have learned something remarkable, that beneath all of the fear, there is still care, there is courage, and there's community. But now it's time for something new because fear wasn't the whole story, and it never was. When we launched season 4, we began with a simple commitment. Maybe didn't say it out loud, but it was there. And it was presence before action. So in season 4, episode 1, it was titled, "What if we could build a society without harm?" Like, imagine that, like, blows my mind still. But I invited you to try just this tiny sequence with me to name what you feel, name what you value, and then take one step that matches that feeling and value towards a brighter future. It was quiet and modest, a little transformative too, because it changed, for me, it changed how I met the news each week with less doom and more humanity and therefore more agency. We imagined walking the streets in We Are Chicago to ask hard questions about safety and state power. What does the law allow and what does it forbid? And what do the communities that are impacted deserve? And the headlines were really loud, but we stayed very calm and plain spoken because guardrails on authority are not abstractions. They are how we honor both security and rights at the same time. In the episode titled "In Roles We Choose in Crisis," we slowed the frame. And throughout American history, seasons of crisis seem to summon the same cast of characters. There are the provocateurs who poke at us because things aren't working. And then the conflict profiteers come in and sow more chaos so they can monetize the division. And then late in the story, the builders start showing up, or we start becoming aware of the builders who step in to steady the ship. And they remind us, the builders remind us that we can choose again and again a better future. And so we encourage everyone to stand with the builders. Another episode, we talked about rage burnout. There is no doubt that rage is like rocket fuel for about 5 minutes, and then it burns us up. So we introduced this idea of downshifting from adrenaline rushes that catalyze change into a steadier form of care. One meeting, go to one meeting, say one thank you to a public worker, check one rumor before sharing it. And through this practice, we calm our nervous systems and strengthen our civic muscles. Another episode, Outgrowing the Pots. We asked, if a plant cannot thrive in a too small container, maybe it isn't the plant's fault. And our current systems, the policies, the systems, the incentives, the norms, they are not set up for human thriving. The evidence is the epidemic of addiction and loneliness and unhoused people, and that's before AI takes root. Like root bound plants, we need bigger containers that match human thriving. Maybe you upsized one pot at work with tighter meeting hygiene or clearer expectations or better feedback loops. These are small but real steps towards human thriving. In the episode titled They Want You Afraid, we named the business model itself of outrage. And we offered an exit ramp. Unfollow 3 outrage sources and add one nourishing source each week. And we encouraged all of us to make room in our day, in our body, in our relationships for repair and reconnection. We also interviewed guests this season and grounded these lessons. Hugo Balta, who's a journalist, an educator, and a publisher, reminded us that what we feed our attention to becomes our internal weather. And he showed how solutions journalism and media literacy can shift us from doom scrolling to truth seeking and from hot takes to human pace. So, really reaching into gratitude and reciprocity and community as a daily practice. And his question lingers. What if we rewired our news diet to notice what works and why? Another guest, Sam Daly Harris, he's a co founder of Results and Civic Courage, gave us the structure for transformational advocacy. And he turned a vague contact a representative call to action into a doable cadence to build a relationship with coaching and cohorts to help citizens make the big asks of their representatives at human scale. He named the trap cynicism is obedience. And he offered this countermove to join a system of support that makes courage a repeatable action. When we talked to Stephen Olakara, who's a bridge builder, an entertainment consultant, and a musician, he invited us into the politics of possibility to tell stories that are cross-partisan and future-oriented and creative and fun, I might add. He showed how culture, whether it's music or story or shared spaces, can really reopen channels that partisanship has frozen. And the takeaway from his interview for me was that bridge building is a craft or a skill that we can learn, practice, and pass on. And then Dr. Paul Zeitz, he is not only a physician, he's a movement strategist. And he pressed us towards healing centered action, turning personal overwhelm into joyful solidarity. And he asked us to declare a personal state of emergence where grief, awe, and bold micro actions live together. His drumbeat, courage is contagious when it's organized and focused around a love centered world. Each guest, in their own lane, taught the same deeper lesson. Attention, structure, culture, and care are 4 corners of a sturdier, steadier life. So, no, fear isn't the whole story. It never was. And staying present with hard things is how we discover the rest of the story. Our capacity to choose, to set boundaries for ourselves, and to build the future. So, as Terrified Nation comes to a close, we are not ending this conversation, we are evolving it. Introducing our new podcast, From Fear to Future, will start in January of 2026. And each week, we will show how to move from alarm to agency. And we'll ground it in the Jedi lens of justice, equity, dignity, and inclusion. So the future that we imagine is one everyone can enter. And every episode is going to follow a steady rhythm that you can count on. There's going to be a field note, something that's working somewhere. We're going to talk about how it works, like the mechanics in plain English that you can then borrow for yourself. And then we're going to close with your move, one doable action step that you can take every day. And regularly, we'll bring in more builders, people like our recent guests who are making something real in the world. They will share with us what they're building, the challenges that they faced, and how they keep going so we can adapt their moves to make them our moves where we live. So let's do one last practice right now to close out Terrified Nation and get ready for our From Fear to Future. So try it with me now. Step one is called presence. Pause as we take in and release 3 breaths. In, out. In, out. In, out. In being present, right here now, name the feelings that arise in you. All right, pause for another breath. In and out. Now, name one value that you would like to strengthen in your life and say it out loud. All right, pause for one more breath here. In and out. And as you release this breath, name one small action that you will commit to take that will strengthen that value for you. Here are some examples you might borrow from our guests. Hugo Balta might suggest to swap one doom source for one solution source each day. Sam Daly Harris would suggest scheduling one monthly action call with a group that trains citizens. Stephen Alakar's bridging move: invite 2 unlike neighbors for a coffee. Ask one shared question and then listen deeply, letting go of your own internal chatter or judgment. Or you might think of Paul Zeitz's wisdom to declare a personal state of emergence and take one joyful micro action before bed each day. We'll share our links in the show notes to the work of these guests. Terrified Nation has helped us name our fears. From Fear to Future will help us practice hope together. So thank you for listening, for staying with us for 4 seasons, and for believing that something better can grow from even our darkest moments. I hope that you'll stay with us as we turn towards more light and step into that future together. I'm Debbie Lynn Molyneux. Join me next time on the new podcast, From Fear to Future.
That's Terrified Nation, a podcast from American Future. If this episode moved you, please help others find it. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. For early access to new episodes, become a paid subscriber at terrifiednation.com. Join us next time.